Let's look at the lab on one-dimensional motion. This is going to be an experiment where we're going to examine position, velocity, and acceleration, but we're only going to do it in one-dimensional motion. To do this, we're going to use a motion detector. A motion detector is a device, and this is a motion detector, that sends out an ultrasonic signal. This is a sound signal, but it's at very, very high frequency. And so we actually can't hear it. If we had dolphins in the room or something, maybe they could hear it, but we can't hear it. And what happens is it sends out a sound signal from here, hits whatever device we're trying to measure the velocity of, and then reflects back. And this device then measures the time it takes to go from here to there and back. It knows what the speed of sound is, and therefore it can measure the distance. Okay, so I'm going to show you, there's a switch on here for a broad beam and a narrow beam. The manual will usually tell you whether you want to have it on broad beam or whether you have it on narrow beam. You can also rotate this device here to, if you're going to look at something high or if you're going to look at something low. It also has a place where you can't actually see it there, but there actually are angles there, 0, 90, and so forth. Sometimes we have it where, we're mounting it like this, and we might want to look that way or look down. Most of the time we leave this on 0. Okay, so for this experiment, the first experiment we're going to do today, we're actually going to walk in front of this detector. So let's first of all show how we're going to use this detector. We're going to use a program called Data Studio. And let's get over here and open it up. It's on the screen, Data Studio. For this particular experiment, we're going to create the activity. Most of the time, we already have an experimental file set up for you, but this time, for the very first experiment, you're going to create it. Okay, and you just follow the manual. I think the manual will say we're going to hook up the motion detector in the digital channels. This is a picture of the interface, and the interface is located right to the left of the computer down here. These inputs here are for the digital channels. These are for the analog channels, and the motion detector is one of the digital channels, and we have 2 cables, and we're going to put the yellow one in number 1 and the black one in number 2. Now, digital channels always have 2 connections. The yellow always goes on the left. If we follow, however, what we're doing here, it says to click, I believe, on the digital channels. Here's the list of sensors, and we're going to click on motion sensor, which is what this is, and say OK. And there, in fact, it actually shows that this is now connected. So we've now connected the motion detector electronically in Data Studio. And if you look closely, you can see the yellow connectors on the left. Okay, now we can get out of that. And what we want to do now is to look at a position versus time. And if we go all the way over to the left, these are the different data we can take: position, velocity, and acceleration. You probably won't be able to read this, but that's okay. We want to look at graphs. So we click on position, we click and drag down here to the bottom left where it says graph, and lo and behold, a graph of position versus time appears. And I'm going to make it larger. Just get and click. We find that students are very, very used to using electronics and using computers, and you will basically have no trouble with this. Okay, so what are we going to do in this experiment? We're going to walk in front of the motion detector. So let's zoom back out and show how we have this set up. What you're going to do is, on the table leg, you're going to measure distances out on the floor, and you're going to use masking tape, and you're going to measure 0.5, 1.0, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and 3. And you want to put the front of the motion detector right over where the leg is here, because you're going to actually measure the distances from the leg, not from here. I think we want this to be on broad beam, and I have this set at 0. So what you're going to do is, to start this, first of all, let me go ahead and start an experiment, because I want you to see what happens. So let's zero in on the motion detector and see what happens when I hit start. Well, first of all, you see the flicking green light. That means it's actually taking data. Sometimes you can actually hear it click. Okay, now I'm going to hit stop on the computer, and it goes away. On the screen, what you see is a very, very straight line, except for a place there where I probably bent over. Okay, so let me delete this, and I'm not going to go through. You go in an experiment, you say delete last data run, hit OK. I'm not going to go through all this on the Data Studio. You really need to have 2 people. So let's zoom back out. So one person, for example, would be here starting the experiment to hit start, while the other person would be here walking. I actually like to do it where I don't look at the computer screen. You click it, and let's say the first thing says to walk very slowly. Okay, one person says, if I can't hear it, one of my partners in the group says, start walking slowly, and I start walking slowly like this. And then it says stop after 2 seconds, and then go back fast like that. Okay, so it will tell you what to do in the lab manual, and then you look at the motion that you see. And you go through a series of these. You have to work together. One person has to work on the experiment to start and stop it. Other people have to maybe tell you to go a little bit faster, or look at the clock and say you're supposed to walk for 3 seconds or 2 seconds to stop. You need to help each other, and everybody needs to try it. So that's the first experiment. You do some graphs like that.